This is Lewis Hart for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store. Delighted to be joined with Charlie Sims here at the launch of obviously a debut show at York Hall on December 13th, Huge Boxing Origins. Yeah, pretty fitting for the first show for the name. Before we do get into that, how's things? Did you enjoy today?
Oh, I thought today was brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. I'm so glad that everybody came because first time doing it, it's a bit like a birthday party. You kind of invite people but we're not really sure who's going to turn up. And could have probably done with more seats, to be honest. But, you know, really good event, really happy with it. Happy to launch Huge Boxing and our event December 13th at York Hall.
Definitely, yeah. I guess we'll get into the card straight away before we get into sort of the promotional side of things. But yeah, big names on the card: Liddard, Jimmy Sains, Shannon Ryan, Maisie Rose, Paddy Donovan as well is on it. Excuse me if I've missed anyone else out, but yeah, big show ahead of the debut on York Hall.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really brilliant card. Like, if you look at most small hall, small venue cards, they're not as strong as this. All of these guys have performed at a high level. Gareth. Sorry, Gareth.
It's been a pleasure to.
Gareth's a character. He's been really fun to have around today. But yeah, this card in particularly, like, it's a small hall venue, but it's a big card. All of these fighters have boxed on major shows. Yes, they are prospects. Yes, they are sort of the younger generation, but it gives them an opportunity to headline. And people like George Liddard, Jimmy Sains, these are kind of names that need to break through. So really excited to have them on.
I spoke to George and Jimmy, and I'm sure they have the same attitude in terms of, obviously when they're on the matchroom shows, they're not in the main event slots, they're not at that point yet. But you know, thinking of when George and Jimmy boxed on the top tier show, they were high up the bill, and it'll be the same for this one on the 13th. So it's important for them to get that experience of George being at the main event setting, Jimmy being high up the card, and so I guess all the fighters sort of having that experience of sort of being in the spotlight a lot more than they may be used to.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you know, this show has really homed a few different things. Like, you've got George and Jimmy, which definitely need to headline. If they're talking about fighting for titles, domestic titles, stuff like that, I think 10 round, 8 round experience, bridging the gap is what you need. Also it's also that experience of walking out as a headliner for the first time, what that feels like. Everybody's watching you. You're not first on the card anymore. You're really coming in as the big name on the event. So it really gives those guys the experience before they go into the big shows. So they've got that now, and they've got big fights scheduled for early next year, so they'll be ready for that. And also gives people like Maisie Rose, Shannon Ryan an opportunity to bounce back from their roll of the dice fights that have just gone, and they'll be able to walk into 2025 with a win under their belt and looking for those big nights.
And being at York Hall as well, it's an extra special feeling because matchroom don't really go there. You know, obviously the fighters being most of matchroom shows, but Maisie Rose saying, you know, that's on my doorstep. I'd love to have gone there. And I'm sure George and Jimmy feel the same about fighting at York Hall. So it's a little bit of another box to tick for their careers in a sense.
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised to find out that a few people haven't boxed at the York Hall before. Shannon Ryan being one of them. Jimmy Sains being another one. He just hasn't boxed at the York Hall. And yeah, you know, matchroom don't go there anymore. They have obviously moved on to bigger and better things, but I think it gives us a good opportunity to claim that one as our home and bring these fighters through. And also, anybody who's been to York Hall, you've seen what the atmosphere is like. When it's packed, those rafters are hanging over you, and it can really become a thrilling environment for anybody who's in like a dogfight. And you know, we expect to obviously get these guys out on this event, but in April we'll be announcing another event, and we'll be looking at competitive matchups for that fight. And that's what this is about. It's about giving people a platform to stay active, be competitive, try and break through Origins into Destiny, and help people fulfil their legacy eventually.
For yourself, Charlie, you know, you've been involved for many years. You know, boxing really, like if obviously Dad being a trainer and boxing himself, like the way that boxing works, you know, if your dad's in it, it means the whole family's in it. You know, they're all immersed in it. So you've been immersed in the sport for a lot of years, and obviously working sort of on a managerial aspect. What was it now like for yourself getting into it on a promotional aspect as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite a creative person. I like to think, and I've had a few creative jobs in the past, been involved in TV, been involved in production. So I wanted to really try this out, challenge myself, see if I was up to it, but also really hone in on something that I don't think anybody's really doing, and that's storytelling. I really want to focus on creating a series, creating chapters for people, and giving fighters that aren't on these major shows the platform to tell their story, and that's what I think I bring different to everybody else. So I was excited and I've enjoyed the process. Been tough. I think the risk financially way outweighs the rewards for these kind of small hall shows. But you've got to learn somewhere and you've got to start somewhere. And Origins, December 13th, is our first show. So pretty happy about it.
How important is that idea of authenticity and being different in a way? Because in the Southeastern alone, you know, it's very sort of saturated market in terms of small, not on that small hall circuit, you know, necessarily people on the card aren't small hall sort of boxers in a way, but how important is it to sort of have that authenticity to be different from everyone else in a way, especially in the Southeast?
Definitely, like, you know, we've got a few good promoters coming through at the moment who are doing shows not too dissimilar to mine, but I just feel like if you're going to come into the game, you might as well try and do something different, because if I think I'm going to be the next Eddie Hearn or the next Frank Warren, all I'm going to do is get compared, and that's not what I'm here to do. I think some people have tried to come in the game and do that, and I think they haven't managed to pull it off. So I want to do something different. I don't want to be compared to anybody. I want to be the first Charlie Sims, the first Huge Boxing, and I think we're just getting started. Yeah. You know, I think a lot of people have started to pay attention to us now. Our content's good. Obviously did a really good press day. A lot of people turned up today, did something different. This wasn't just a top table event. I'm not trying to stand up here and sell anything. I'm just trying to tell authentic, genuine stories about these fighters, who they are, their journey, and where this can potentially go. And I just want people to buy into that, and let's all go on a big journey together.
From you mentioning that there about sort of being involved always and having that, even on all sorts of fronts, and the production and all sorts of TV things as well, how key has that been to experience as well, knowing that, like, when you know, I'm sure in that sort of, in boxing there's always surprises that come up no matter what, but you have that experience to know that sort of whatever comes up, you are sort of experienced enough to deal with it.
Yeah, and like, I think if you was doing this for the very first time and you just woke up one day and said, I want to be a boxing promoter, which some people do, you would find this very, very difficult. I've been around boxing my whole life. My dad's been doing this for 30 years. I remember walking around York Hall when I was 10 years old, you know, going into the changing room, seeing how fighters prepare, and also seeing what jobs people are doing in and around these events. I've had a very, very close relationship with Matchroom. Matchroom have been very supportive, given me good advice, which I've really appreciated. But ultimately, I've also said, you're on your own. You know, you need to do this yourself. And I've been across everything, from a creative aspect, you know, the graphics, all of the content, the social content, the promo video that's going to come out soon. You know, I wrote and shot that with my friend Mark. And really just done everything from the ground up on this one. Learned how to do tickets. We've got a very, very small team, and I'm very, very grateful for the team. Jacob Bennett, who's been amazing to work with, Charlie Curran, Tony Burns, who's very experienced, and also my father, who's been very much across all of the boxing side, you know, making sure that people get matched up correctly, and that the fights are good fights for this card. But really, from a creative aspect and from a visionary aspect, I've taken on that role and I've done everything myself.
And it's interesting what you say there about growing up with boxing, and I guess it's something that I did want to touch on, because I'll listen to Eddie Hearn and he'll talk about a lot of his heroes when he was growing up, the likes of Herbie Hyde, who his dad was promoting. And I'm sure you had it the same when you was growing up. Your dad had fighters, you know, like Darren Barker, etc., and all different fighters. So do you sort of follow that aspect of, like, there's a lot of people that you looked up to, and now I guess to sort of have that front where you can work hands on with all different fighters, like, this is something that it's been implemented in your whole life.
Yeah, and like, you know, growing up in and around my dad's fighters, because I knew them from a young age, they become my heroes. Like Darren Barker was like, I idolised him, you know, when he was a world champion, and he was the coolest dude that I knew. And obviously he went on to have an amazing career, and you kind of see similar versions of him coming through. Like Jimmy and George are exactly the same, both middleweights, you know, both come from similar backgrounds. Jimmy boxed for Repton, Darren boxed for Repton. So it's funny how different eras can kind of get you excited, because I remember all of those guys from back in that era, where it was like Darren Barker, John Ryder, Kevin Mitchell, Ricky Burns. Like, that was a really good era for us. Then we had Cheeseman, Cash, Cordina, Ben, and now we've got Sains, Liddard, Rose, Ramtin coming through. Shona Whitwell's just joined our team. We've got a whole new crop of fighters coming through, which one day in the next few years I'll be talking to them about how they're going to help support the next generation coming through. Much like Conor Benn. When Conor Benn joined our team, he walked in and he was by far the youngest one in the team. He was in and around some really experienced fighters, and now he's the oldest in the team. You know, he's the senior one, and ultimately these younger guys, they're looking at how he trains and how much effort he puts into headline events, and obviously he's going to have a big fight in 2025.
Definitely. I did just want to touch on Conor there. Obviously, I had the news a couple of weeks ago about the clearing of the NAPD, and I know that there's about 5 days left of UCAD to appeal whether they choose to or not. But yeah, I guess when you sort of how do you sit with the situation now as it looks to potentially be finally coming to a close after the 2 years that it's been?
Yeah, I mean, nobody can really make that call until this appeal process is completely finished. I don't know what's going to happen, whether they will appeal or not. It's been a really tough 2 years, like, you know, for Conor, for my father, for our whole team, and it's really affected everything that we've done in terms of our business model, and also just on a personal level. When you get to know somebody, their family, their children, you know, you want people to succeed, and he's fought the fight that he felt like he should fight, and UCAD and the board have fought the fight that they felt like they should fight. It was really down to the NADP to make that decision on who they think or who they favour in it, and they ruled it for Conor. So we have to take that as, you know, as it is, and the board and UCAD have the right to appeal, and whether they will, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm just excited to see Conor Benn back. I think boxing needs it. British boxing needs it. He's box office every time he fights. He's right at the top end now. He's top 5 with pretty much every governing body. He's either going to try and challenge for the WBC world title against Barrios, and if that doesn't happen, let's try and get this Eubank fight made. Let's try and get a 60,000, 80,000 plus stadium, and try and get that big legacy fight made where, you know, they had such an amazing build up to the last one, and it was just a shame that it fell apart. And let's see if we can almost get it on again.
For yourself, Charlie, just on that situation there, not going in too depth about it, but when it comes to the board and Conor, do you think that is a relationship that can be repaired?
I'd like to think so, and I'm only talking about it from a professional point of view, but I think if everybody is professional, then certainly I don't see any reason why it can't get back on track to where it was. Obviously, I think the board, you know, they've had to make a decision based on what they think's right in terms of their rule book, and Conor Benn has also made his decisions on what he thinks right according to his and his legal team's rule book. So it's been a very tough, complicated, complex situation. But I think for all of us boxing fans, not just the people involved, let's hope that this is probably the end of that chapter.
And as for like what is next for him there, you mentioned Barrios there. I know he tweeted that, actually said I want Barrios after his draw last Friday. But also Eubank Jr. as well. Now it's a fight that everyone talks about. I listened to Conor's dad Nigel on Simon Jordan's podcast, and he talked about sort of the hatred that he had for Eubank Senior at the time. It feels like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree from both of them, and it feels like that's almost sort of trickled down to now where Ben really sort of does feel some sort of way towards Eubank. So regardless of what next, if that fight was to be next, it shows massive one in itself.
Yeah, I mean, the Eubank fight really is quite personal. Certainly all of this that's gone on for the last 2 years, everything that's been said, it really has affected him personally, and it's not just a legacy fight where the dads fought each other and we can kind of gimmicky make it a fight between ourselves. This has become really quite personal between Conor and Chris. So if they do fight, I expect a completely different build-up. I expect a completely different fight, and I think it's something that genuinely we should all be excited about. But he does have the fire in him to emulate his father's achievement of becoming a world champion, and I think if that opportunity presents itself, he will want to take it, and it's something that's certainly on the cards for early next year.
Absolutely. Just before I do close this off, did want to touch on a good friend of mine, Ramtin Musah, linked up with the gym. I know it's been in the pipeline for some time, and you're just looking for a promotional deal for him now with quite a few offers on the table. But excited to get one of the sort of most hotly tipped amateurs coming from Team GB on with your stable and exciting times for potentially 2025.
100%. Super talented fighter. Going to be a great middleweight. Very decorated amateur career, boxing Team GB. Everybody who he's sparred down, especially down our gym, have all said that he's very talented. So really looking forward to him starting his pro career. Just where's it going to be? I think one of the beauty of having somebody who's talented like that is that you get offers, and you can kind of sit back and make a decision. He's been very patient in making that. We feel like we've probably found his home. We're just exploring the terms of what that looks like, and when that's done, we will be making a big announcement. But he's very talented, and Tony Sims doesn't say this very often, but when he does, he means it. And he said to me a good few weeks ago, this kid can be world class if I get my hands on him. And I think if him and Tony can connect and gel, he'll be taking him all the way.
Absolutely, exciting times obviously for December 13th as well to see a new show. Charlie, thanks for the invite today. I really appreciated it, and thank you for your time. I appreciate the interview, and I'll be there on December 13th, so I can't wait for it. Thank you, top man. Thank you. Cheers for that.